And good evening. It is Tuesday, November 29th, 7 p.m. And I'll call this meeting to order. We will start with the usual public input. I see a very large post-Thanksgiving crowd. No input. Thank you. Chairman's comments. Just a couple of things. First of all, I've been asked to remind everyone of something that appeared on the Stowe Police Department's Facebook page, which is a reminder to all residents about no all-night parking. This, I guess, becomes more of an issue as the winter comes on because they like to keep the streets clear for plowing. And one of our bylaws, Article 4, Section 3, says that it is unlawful for drivers of any vehicles, other than ones acting in an emergency capacity, to park their vehicles on a street for a period of time longer than 1 hour between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. between December 1st and March 31st. So starting Thursday, no on the street overnight parking for longer than an hour between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'd also like to mark the passing of two people in our community. Gene Bunce, a resident of West Acton Road, well known for his fine collection of antique cars, and quite a gentleman, and Cheryl Wood, the wife of our former superintendent, Michael Wood. I'd like to ask my colleagues if we could just observe a very brief moment of silence. Thank you. And we have a couple of sets of minutes. Maureen, thank you very much. We've got the minutes of November 9th, our last meeting, and we have the minutes of a brief meeting before a special town meeting in February. Let's take up the minutes of November 9th first. Do any of my colleagues have any comments? I don't.
The minutes of November 9th, second page, third paragraph down. Just Eversource explained the need to resolve energy transition reliability problems. They provided information on two possible scenarios of an overhead or underground, but it's actually three.
It's true.
Because it's two down the rail line and one on the streets.
That's true. So Maureen, you said three possible scenarios of an overhead or underground transmission line route, and then plus a route under public ways.
Okay.
I have one comment.
Ingeborg?
The first line says, present at the meeting that was held at town building.
Oh.
Thank you. That's all I can contribute since I wasn't there.
Oh, yeah. The heading's right, but
Right.
anything else?
Mr. Chairman, sorry for being discombobulated.
That's all right, sorry. We got started.
Page 2, November 9th, the bottom. In the motion, Mr. Hawks moved, comma, as a result of the RFP, comma, the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Did you get that, Maureen? Anything else?
Yes, on page 3. Lake Boone report, Mr. Hawks quoted, last line, they voted to remove, instead of the, put in 1-9-inch board.
Thank you, Mr. Hawks. Anybody have anything else? Do you have all those changes, Maureen? Do you have that? Do you have a motion?
Move as amended.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the minutes of November 9th as amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and abstentions. Do I have an abstention?
I voted in favor because I watched it on TV.
Good enough. I don't think that's illegal. And the minutes of February 1st, 2016, this was a very brief meeting before.
I was good with those.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
where it reads, Mr. Salvi moved to vote in favor, instead of the words to vote in favor, I suggest the words that the board go on record as
Okay.
Go on.
Did the board go on record as supporting the article?
Is that the way we
Number
usually
one. Yes,
phrase it?
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't know what the usual way is. I think the two things have a very close meaning, so I don't have any objection.
I don't have any objection either.
I think the intention of doing so is to advise the members in the audience as to the board's conclusion, rather than the way the board intends to vote. But
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Subtle, but valid. Thank you.
move to approve as amended.
Good. Okay, I have no other comments. Motion been made and seconded to approve the February 1st minutes as amended. Have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay. thank
one
you.
abstention.
And one abstention. Yeah, sure, that time I don't.
You couldn't watch that one.
I could, but
No, you couldn't. Not that.
it's not recorded, left up there forever.
Okay, just moving on. We have the appointment of Dan Nicholson to the Recreation Commission. I think the Recreation Commission is currently operating at least one person under, and they need, I was told by Mike Bush who stopped by, they have a meeting coming up and they'd like to make a quorum. He spoke very highly of Mr. Nicholson, who unfortunately cannot make it tonight. He's got a conflict. Mr. Nicholson's been an associate, I take it, for a number of years, and the Rec Commission is in favor of his appointment.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hawks?
I've known Mr. Nicholson nearly all the 30-some years that I've been in Stowe. He and his wife are both school teachers, very active with youth. And he's been, has been and is active with the Lake Boone Association. He is almost a contiguous, and I think he is a contiguous neighbor of Pine Bluffs. And has, in all of those regards, has contributed greatly as an associate member. And for that reason, plus the fact that I think they still have 2 vacancies, even after this. But certainly, for all of those reasons, I support his nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Hawks. Any other comments about Mr. Nicholson's appointment?
After that glowing recommendation, how can we say?
Hearing none, do I have a motion?
On the recommendation of the Recreation Director, I move to appoint Dan Nicholson to the Recreation Commission to fulfill the remainder of a 1-year term ending June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to appoint Dan Nicholson to a term on the Recreation Commission ending June 30th, 2017. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, nay. And Mr. Nicholson, if you're watching, thank you very much for stepping up, and congratulations. So, one of our bigger topics for tonight in this post-holiday meeting is special liquor licenses for 2 holiday parties. Let's take up the proposed license for the Highway Department first. We all saw an email. The Highway Department is holding its annual holiday bash at the barn on Friday, December 9th. I don't know if I really need to say any more than that. And does anybody want to make a motion? Any further discussion?
I move to approve and sign a special 1-day liquor license for the Board of for the Stowe Highway Department employees to be held at the Highway Barn on Friday, December 9th, 2016, from 1 to 5, and to waive the fee of $25.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve and sign a 1-day liquor license for the Highway Department to hold the party on December 9th and to waive the $25 fee. Further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed nay, and that's unanimous. So the next is something that requires a slight bit more discussion, is our own party. So as you know, it's usually held in one of our homes, and I guess through a combination of Christmas kind of sneaking up on everybody, nobody's ever prepared, and none of us getting our act together, we don't have our act together. So the choices basically come down to some unenviable ones about trying to glom onto the highway department, which nobody really wants to do. December 16th, for various reasons, doesn't work for some of us, and, yes, thank you. And, well, after that, it's kind of pointless. No one's going to want to go on the 23rd. Mr. Ryan has generously, so, a one-day liquor license for a selectman party at Pompo may be kind of moot. Oh, and I should mention that there was an idea before about holding it at Pompo now that we have that. Does anyone want to try to revive that? I should mention Mr. Ryan has generously offered to take the lead on a Pompo party in January,
Sometime in January.
sometime in January. So we could revisit this when we have a date.
I would say that's what we want to do. Because I don't think we can kind of give a blanket license. I think it has to be, should be a specific time and date,
That's what I would tend to think.
unless we just want to give ourselves a blanket one.
If it's a
Probably not.
one-day liquor license, I think you have probably specify the day. Does anyone have any comments? This is,
Now, since we kind of brought it up, does anybody here have a, this is actually a social function, so it's not really town business. But
we could discuss this offline, but
is,
Thank you.
Brian, Don, anything to add?
No, thanks for spearheading this, you two.
I think Mr. Ryan is up front. All right, so I guess I'll take that as a consensus that we're aiming for a party at Pompo in January. Tom will take the lead, but he'll let us know
yeah.
what we need to do, which will mostly be bring money, or pay money and bring food. It's not that kind of party.
Maybe we could have a Valentine's Day party.
There you go. All right, so pass over to that, and now I have a series of common victual licenses.
No, I'm taking my pen back, by
Oh,
the
sorry,
way.
thank you. Do I have a motion on the licenses?
Oh dear, I'm getting punished here.
Well,
I move to renew
Okay.
the town's common victual licenses for the following businesses in 2017. Costa Donuts 2, doing business at Dunkin' Donuts at the Stowe Golf Station. Stowe Cafe at 118 Great Road. Papagino's at the Stowe Shopping Plaza. Delta Epsilon, which is doing business as the Stowe House of Pizza on Great Road. Stowe LLC, doing business as Dunkin' Donuts at the Stowe Shopping Center. And Emma's Cafe at the Stowe Shopping Center.
Second.
thank you, Ms. Hageman, Mr. Ryan. Any further discussions? These are renewals of existing, these are all renewals of existing licenses. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, and that passes. Ms. Hageman, would like to do the honors on the Class 2 used car license renewals?
Would you like me to?
Please.
All right then. I move to renew the town's Class 2 licenses for the following businesses for 2017. Patterson Auto Body on 18 Great Road. Import-Export of Boston on 8 Whitman Street. Auto Support Engineering at 370 Hudson Road. Great Road Fuels on Great Road. Richard Presti Chapel Partners on 102 Great Road.
Do I have a second?
Well, no, I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a pause.
BGL Automotive doing business as Hudson Road Auto on Hudson Road. Dennis Paul Scafidi doing Infinite Detail and Accessories on Great Road. And P Cars, the letter P, on Hudson Road.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is made and seconded to renew the Class 2 used car licenses 2017. Again, these are all existing businesses. I believe Class 2 means that this is not your primary business. It's an accessory business.
You need,
Yeah.
sorry, I would have given you more.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, nay. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Bill, while we sign this, will you be offended if while you give your report, we do a little signing?
I will not be offended. As you're all aware, this Thursday morning, 8:30, Shaw's Plaza. Secretary Jay Asher will be present at 8:30 to make a public announcement on the MassWorks grant that Stowe received recently in the amount of $850,000. We did discuss this pre-meeting, but didn't know whether any of you folks intended to be there or not.
I plan on being there.
Okay, it's at least two.
I have to be in court.
I can call a boss. I wouldn't miss this one.
I'm gonna try to make it. I've gotta try to arrange it work though.
Is it like out in the parking lot, or?
Yeah, it's gonna be,
Okay.
depending on the weather.
Starting in the parking lot and then moving into Emma's, I believe.
I was gonna say, I kind of envisioned it close to Emma's.
Okay.
Thank you. So, I'll keep it.
So just wanted to publicly convey that
And-
event for Thursday morning at 8:30. Actually, 8:20,
Yes.
because they're, I believe, Kate Hogan is looking to get some pictures taken with her and our esteemed Senator Jamie Eldridge and the secretary and some of our chief elected officials, I would think.
We should thank Kate. She really, at the ceremony, it was her idea to try to
Hey, Brian,
drag him out
you
there.
signed some of
for-
those? Ingeborg hasn't signed some of them.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And she approached him right there. And actually, he was pretty enthusiastic about it.
I don't think this kind of money gets awarded to a town like Stowe unless those folks who have been elected to represent us in the general court can do some heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So I think, God bless them for this. The next item I had, we just discussed with regard to, I'd been asked to look at whether we needed a license or not for, to hold town-sponsored parties, and/or the issue of liability, which I did report to you. This is something that I'd looked at years ago, and we have addressed it. We do have a bylaw. I don't believe that a license is necessarily required, but having said that, it doesn't hurt that you've granted yourselves one, so we're covered in any event. The last piece I had is that I wanted to provide an update with regard to the traffic planning working group recently formed. We had our first scoping session almost 2 weeks ago now. Essentially, we've assigned each other some work to try to get it and do an assessment study of where we are, what we know about traffic issues, the nature and extent of those issues, and then we'll begin, as my report explains, to begin to take some immediate steps where we can. And that's ongoing as we speak, but continue that, whether it's with lane markings or go-slow paintings or taking a look at traffic control signage, other things that are routine, but perhaps compress the period of time and the locations that we routinely take steps to try to calm traffic. We're building towards what I would expect to be a request for some engineering funds at the annual town meeting. I'm not certain yet what that scope of services will be. One of the other matters we have to, as part of the due diligence, perform between now and then, the planning board has been engaged for some period of time in traffic planning. Now, the Complete Streets program, which we recently passed, is germane because of the Gleasonville Bridge and other grant funds that are available through that. So there's going to be some overlapping areas to address the traffic to satisfy the needs of the Complete Streets program that would at the same time increase public safety. But at the same time, we're going to have separate needs for public safety in areas of town where the Complete Streets, either as a planning instrument will take longer than is perhaps otherwise necessary. We might be able to get a jump on some of those, depending on the level of need, where it is, cost benefit, that type of thing. So we'll be working closely with the planning department. Jesse's on the working group. And so I don't want to do anything that either unnecessarily impacts that effort by diverting their focus, changing their time schedule, the planning effort. At the same time, I don't want to wait if they've got a 5-year plan they're developing, and that's the horizon they're looking at. And there's some things that we think as a group, we'd recommend to the town, not waiting that long. They need attention. It will have no effect on what they're doing. And if all the answers to those questions are yes, then we'd probably come forward and say, you know, we want to take on an engineering group for traffic for the following purposes, while probably setting the stage and doing some preparatory pre-design work that might help and supplement what they're going to do when they finally get there. Or maybe do some things for them when we do it that they can just take, and it'll help create a baseline for them going forward that they don't have to wait to do. In any event, I'm comfortable going to be able to comprehensively take a look at what our immediate, short-term, long-term needs are, prepare a cost-benefit matrix, go through that due diligence process, and get at it. But we're going to start by doing things we can do now, be ready in the spring to ask for not only a sum of money for hiring a consultant, but at the same time, under the Modernization Act, there's some legislation that we can put in for bylaws that, once in effect, will authorize the Board of Selectmen to reduce local speed limits on roads that aren't state-controlled as soon as that passes. So we can come to the meeting, and if persuaded by either our working group or the planning board or a group of residents, get that done. But there's 2 articles there. One speaks to a safety zone, one speaks to generally in a thickly settled area reducing speed limits. But those 2 alone, I mean, after the first meeting and talking with the public safety folks, there's probably things we can do immediately once that's passed. So in any event, got some work to do. We've got started. I'm comfortable. We're going to be productive, and I'll keep updating as we go.
Yeah, could you be sure to February, March, give us an update on progress?
After every meeting I will, and we're going to
Oh,
meet more
okay.
frequently than that.
All right.
If I haven't, it's become, I forgot, just remind me, but
I think at some point, February, March or so, we ought to put it on as an actual agenda item. If there's anybody out there who's interested, just so people see that we're talking about it.
Well, yeah, and hopefully, if we're doing our job and keeping you informed at every meeting that after we've met, I mean, I'm happy to do that as well, but,
Right.
you know, if we've been saying it right along, but anyway, I'm happy to take whatever approach you
Okay.
want to. The important thing for me is getting the work done and doing it, and that's what we're gonna get started on.
Okay. Is
That's
that
it.
Questions, comments for Bill on this report? Anybody? Apparently you said something very important, because you have to run out, file a report. Okay, thank you. Let's go to liaison reports. I'll start with Mr. Burke. Would you prefer I start at the other end?
No. I, along with you, attended the ZBA meeting last week, but that was an executive session, so I can't really go into it here. I attended, I had a chance to attend because we shifted the meeting tonight. I got a chance to attend FinCom, which I hadn't in all the years I've been liaison, because for some reason they meet coextensively or coterminously with us, and I think it's, the original idea was in case the Board of Selectmen needed to consult with them, or they needed to consult with the Board of Selectmen, they would be right handy, but it's never happened. Mr. Ryan can actually, who's experienced on FinCom, was back before mine, can maybe tell me if I'm wrong. But it was nice to speak with them, and they were making their liaison appointments, and but they're a very important board, and I did want to reach out to them at least once during my tenure. I also was at CPC last night, and the committee, just as usual, approved some invoices, and they're working on a draft of invoice payment policies and award letters. They will not be meeting in December. The big liaison report I have, and I don't know how much my colleagues and the town administrator want to hear me, is on the Eversource project as is going through the other 2 towns. As you all know, and And maybe I missed it in the correspondence, but the copy of the letter I sent to the chair of the,
It was there.
I just put it in Jim's box. I wasn't sure if that was personal or for the whole board.
I think it could be given
Okay.
to the whole board.
Well, I
In
think
fact,
it's sent for the whole, well, I'll go get it.
But I asked them if they, I'm not going to repeat what's in the letter, but I asked for their positions and if they wanted us to take a position. The thing of it is, both Hudson and Sudbury are approaching this, from what I can gather, very cautiously. They both have engaged counsel. Hudson is having an executive session meeting on next Monday night. It may or may not be with a joint executive session with the Sudbury Board. We haven't been invited, but I told the chair of the Hudson Board of Selectmen is that I doubt very much if my colleagues would like to go to an executive session, and I doubt very much they'd let me go on my own. So, but having not been invited, I was told by the Hudson chair that they might be able to respond to us next Tuesday. I still have not heard directly yet from the Sudbury chair. I understand that the board wants to take a position on this. They would rather take it sooner than later. I know that our very capable and diligent chair of our Eversource Energy Working Group, Arnie Epstein, suggested that we should get our position into the Eversource people before, or publicly, before they do their filing. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. As I said, I didn't want to take too much time on this because I know we have an executive session, but I think it may be best for us to wait until we get an official response from Hudson and Sudbury before we take our position, or we vote to take our position, if we indeed do vote to take a position. But I know some of my colleagues may feel differently.
So just to, I plan on putting on the agenda for our next meet, I plan on putting this topic on our agenda for the next meeting, just whether to take a position, and if so, what position. At that time, I don't know what people on the board think. At that time, it'll be perfectly appropriate to say, let's take a position now, and here's what it is, or let's hold off for whatever reason. By then, hopefully, we will have heard from at least Hudson, right?
Well, actually, maybe I should have been more complete. Hudson just said that they might tell me what their timeline is
Okay.
next Tuesday. And as I said, I haven't heard from Sudbury. But again, they've both engaged counsel. They're both meeting in executive session. I think they're a little cautious about making any kind of public statements too soon. And that includes a public statement to our board requesting a position. Does that make sense?
It does. You know, I am going to put this on the agenda for next time. And I'd at least want to, it would be nice to know why they're reluctant. Because to be perfectly honest, I mean, I kind of know they're not going to be in favor of it. I can figure that out. I don't know exactly what they're not in favor of and to what extent.
I don't think it has anything to do with reluctance.
Mr. Chairman,
Hold on,
point of order.
You think we're going on too much about this?
Yes.
I think you're probably right. So since it's on the agenda for the next time, let's just postpone that.
I just want to make it clear, there's no reluctance expressed to me of letting us know. It's a question of timing.
Let's just talk about it next time.
Fine.
And just for the sake of clarification, we do not meet again. We have one meeting in December,
We have one meeting in December, December 13th.
and that's it until
Yeah.
first
I mean,
meeting of
I
January.
suppose if we need a meeting at the end of December, we can
Right.
do that. It
Thank you.
wasn't that long ago, this board used to regularly meet at the end of December, but I think scheduling that is hard. So
Thank you.
I'm planning on not having a meeting at the end of December. Mr. Hawks?
Oh, can I just make one comment
Sure,
to go
please.
along with Brian's? Without discussing it, I think one of the things that we should
be thinking about.
I think Mr. Hawks's point is good. Actually saying something is discussing it, so.
I'm not saying we should discuss it, but I just want to bring it up so everybody is thinking about it for next time.
Okay.
Is the two of the positions we can take is an intervener and somebody who reserves comment. I think we need to keep that in mind, and maybe, maybe Mr. Wrigley could look into what it might cost us for either of those.
How come you didn't drag me into this?
I
Let's,
I
okay.
like Don's comments.
Yeah, let's postpone this until the next.
Yep.
Mr. Hawks?
Only my old saw. I reported last time that this is actually new information, that we had conditionally voted to take one board out of the lake, but it depended on our discussions to further educate ourselves on the opinion of Board of Health and Conservation Commission. This would, remember that normally this would have been done routinely, starting the 1st of October, but owing to the drought, which was in existence then, and we hope may be a thing of the past, as given the current weather patterns. But we weren't able to decide that then. We met, Chairman Worf and I met with Concom, and consequently, they basically concurred with our recommendation that we take only one board out, one 9-inch board. And rather err on the side of caution, normally it would be 2 boards totaling 18 inches. And that just left input from the Board of Health. They were unable to meet prior to giving advice, but the chairman spoke with Kathy Sferra the next day, and Kathy's conveyed, give us a copy back from a comment that from the chairman as an individual member, that seemed like a prudent course of action. So, but in the bottom line, it's the decision of the Lake Boone Commission, not either of those other boards, but we didn't want that. We got that input, and the next day, Mike Clayton, upon authorization by Chairman Worf, removed one board. And the most recent reading we got on that was a couple of days ago, and the water level is at 2.15 feet or something, keeping in mind that just about 3.0 feet. Keep in mind that tenths of inches or tenths of feet in the gauge, but that there was, before this most recent spate of rain, there was approximately 5 inches of water topping over the board. So in other words, we have not lost any ground at all. It's just about where it was before we took the board out. And we anticipate that, given the current weather patterns, that will probably remain. And we are cautiously optimistic that the 60-some years of experience that I have with the lake will continue to when we put the board back in the spring, it will refill accordingly. That's it.
Okay. I attended a meeting of the Library Building Committee, and the architect had draft concept plans for the restoration of the historic second floor. And I don't know how many of you have ever been up to the second floor. I don't think I've ever been up there other than for a meeting. Not the part where there's like tapes and things like that, but the historic part. And the essentially the project, there's a fair amount of rewiring to be done, new lights, new paint, obviously in conformance with the historic paint scheme. It's amazing how they can take those old black and white photos and they can figure out what colors the paint was back then. I don't know how, but they say they can do it.
It was black or white.
Yeah, they're not pavement gray. And new doors, base project is estimated to cost about $310,000. To add alternates, which I believe were mostly revisions to the storm windows, and maybe some lights, can bring it up to $363,000, but still anticipated to all be paid for by CPC funds. They are anticipating bringing this to town meeting in the spring of the annual town meeting. Obviously, the milestones between then and now involve talking to the Historic Commission, getting CPC on board, both of which I think they're aiming to do in December and January, and then public outreach, including to us, the Finance Committee and Capital Planning. It's a beautiful part of the library, and of course, their goal, I think it's a great one, is to draw adults specifically up to that part of the library and make it usable again. That used to be where the stacks were. That used to be the main part of the library. Of course, that was the front entrance way back. I think it's a good goal, and it seems like something that's appropriate for CPC to be paying for. That's all I have.
I ended up attending the Gobbler this Thanksgiving, my 10th one, actually. And I did something different this year.
What was your time?
Hmm?
What was your time?
I did it pretty quick because I rode with Chief Bosworth at the beginning of it. I never actually knew where the route was before, but Chief Bosworth and I had a nice conversation while we were driving along. I got to see part of it. As he drove forward, he would call the different cruisers that were there on details, and as he put it, it was a finely oiled machine. It went off very well. It was funny is we're coming up with the first runner, all of a sudden a cruiser shows up because he just told him. And, they put some thought into how they're gonna do it, and they do a very nice job with it. And, I think we all knew that there was the possibility of sleet that morning, and he'd arranged to have a couple of highway trucks to be able to sand the route so that there weren't people slipping all over the place if that's what it took. But public safety did a nice job as far as going through it. It's the first time I've actually seen it from that standpoint. So kudos to public safety for a fine job there. And in case anybody didn't know, this was the biggest one that they've had so far. They capped it at 1,000.
Wow.
And there were still people showing up trying to sign up.
And they got a lot of competition for running races on Thanksgiving
Yep.
Day. That's amazing.
But back when it started a few years ago, I was talking to the original organizers who are still running it. They started it when they were in high school.
Yeah.
And they said that they were hoping at the time to get maybe 200 people. And 10 years later, they're coming back and they're doing it, and there's 1,000.
Wow.
So it's quite the thing to be put on by high school volunteers with their families' helps.
Yeah.
I also, Chief Bosworth also shared with me a couple nice letters that people had written in support of the police department, basically for help and things like that. If you don't mind, I'll just read a couple of the lines. Grateful for all the extra help this summer. We asked and we received.
What general subject was that in regard to? Without specificity.
It doesn't go into it. I think I know what it is, so I'd rather not say.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Here, somebody who had a break-in, it says, while I'm angry at many levels at what happened, I remind myself that there are some positives that we have come out of this situation. We have met some very kind officers and detectives on the Stowe Police Force.
difficult situation, man.
Yeah, and, you know, there's a little more to most of these, but, you know, and then another one, and I have no idea what this is in relation to. It says, "Thank you and your staff for all that you do for the town of Stowe." A couple other lines, but that's the gist of it. And so Chief Bosworth thought I might like to see those.
Good.
And then the other thing, and I'll save more for it on the, when we end up discussing Eversource, but I managed to take a walk down the railroad line. Took me a while to actually find it, but I walked all of the section on either side of where it hits Marlboro, kind of Marlboro Road,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of water in that area. And basically, I got to one point and couldn't go any further unless I wanted to kind of play hopscotch on a bridge over a river. But very wooded area, very secluded. Even without the trees, I was hard pressed to be able to see houses until I got into the Hudson side. So I'll leave it at that for now, but I'm gonna try to walk more of it to get a better feel for it. I think Arnie mentioned to me he's walked the whole nine miles.
Oh, he walked the whole 9 miles? Wow.
Yep. So,
All right. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
but if anybody feels like going for a hike and ducking
How about-
under
how about-
trees and,
Let's talk about that.
yeah.
Ingeborg?
I just have a very quick one, that now that the Stowe Recreation Commission has a full, or has enough to hold a meeting, they're hoping to have a meeting, assuming that they're all sworn in, on Thursday night. So I'll try to attend.
Mike said that Linda was gonna show up just to make sure that Dan gets sworn. All right, I think we have nothing else on our agenda except stuff that's for executive session, so I'll take a motion to that
Excuse
effect.
me?
Yes.
Correspondence?
Do you have something in particular?
Yes.
All right. A future agenda item?
Just to call to our attention and suggest perhaps it should, without getting into the detail of it, a suggestion from a resident that we look into for future holiday times such as this, some sort of establishment, a committee or a group that might look into doing tree lighting and a kickoff to the season. And I thought rather than just leave it, letting it languish in correspondence, if perhaps with the indulgence of the chair, we can discuss it next time. And in the time-honored tradition, we might invite this lady to come and talk to us about it and see if she's willing to work on it with a couple of the folks.
Okay, let me actually talk to Bill about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion for executive session?
So moved. Oh, no. Gonna read it.
Need the whole ball of wax.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. I move to convene an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to litigation and to adjourn thereafter without reconvening in open session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to convene an executive session for the purpose of discussion strategy with respect to litigation. We will not be reconvening in open session. This vote requires a roll call vote. Ms. Hageman?
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes.
Do we want to identify if we're going to have invitees?
I didn't think we needed to, but I'm happy to. We plan to be in executive session with the ZBA, with members of the ZBA. Ms. Hageman?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Hawes?
Aye.
And Mr. Burke?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're in executive session. Thank you.